Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to Press Pause today. Aurora and I really appreciate your time, and if you guys do enjoy the channel, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification button so you're aware of when our next videos come out. We're posting content a couple times a week at this point, and we'll see how it continues to flow. But we are very excited today because we're going to be talking about Star Wars. And Aurora has been looking through some of our archives and using her Jedi holocron to see that all of you are not subscribed. Everyone who is watching the videos is not subscribed to the channel. So if you can, again, please subscribe to that channel. We would really appreciate it tremendously. Now, getting into the topic today, talking about Star Wars, but specifically talking about Mandalore. Mandalore is the planet that the Mandalorian came from, okay? Now, many of you know the Mandalorian as Din Djarin from the Mandalorian TV show with Grogu or Baby Yoda, however you refer to him. And essentially, Mandalore is the planet that his race originates from. Jango Fett wears Mandalorian armor. So, very interesting concept to jump into that because many of you aren't aware of the planet of Mandalore, not aware of the history, and not aware of kind of what really is the background there in that story, especially if you haven't watched the Clone Wars TV series. So, we have our little action figure of Din Djarin right here, the Mandalorian. We're just gonna put it in front and center for you guys for us this episode. Just thought about that, so sorry we didn't get that out sooner. But anyway, we'll go ahead and jump into the topic today. So, Aurora, do you want to tell us a little bit about the actual system of Mandalore? When we say system, that means planet in Star Wars.
Yeah, guys, so Mandalore is a system located in the outer region, the outer rim region of the galaxy. The planet has two moons, which is Concordia, which is a moon that is used to mine Beskar, which is the armor that all of the Mandalorians wear. And so this is used to make their weapons and armor, and the system has a yellow sun to it. And it's full of really cool people and really cool warriors with really shiny armor.
That's right, Aurora. So essentially, most of that information, I think all of it is accurate. There's only, one planet of Mandalore, and this planet has two moons. Concordia, that's the moon that they use to mine the Beskar. Obviously, they mined it on Mandalore as well, but very interesting there because it's the only place you can really get Beskar in the galaxy, and that's why it's such a rare thing now because that area is pretty much uninhabitable, and we'll get into that. So only one Mandalorian was ever inducted into the Jedi Order. This is something that a lot of people don't know or are not aware of, but there is a person named Tar Vizsla. Tar Vizsla created the House of Vizsla, which is kind of a sub-clan inside the Mandalorian culture. Now, Vizsla created the dark saber, which is something that you saw in the Mandalorian. It is that dark bladed lightsaber that you see. It is made out of Beskar, which is great because the hilt cannot be, cut in half like Darth Maul's was to turn into one lightsaber at one point. So this is something that makes it a little bit stronger than other lightsabers. And yeah, essentially he used Beskar to create that, which was a really cool, unique thing to his Darksaber. Now that Darksaber was taken away after his death and put into the Jedi Temple, okay? The Jedi Temple is on Coruscant, the capital planet of the galaxy, and shortly after his death, the Mandalorians were very upset that this Darksaber was taken away because he was their leader at one point in time until he died. And after he died, they wanted that Darksaber back. They believe the Darksaber is what dictates how the ruler of Mandalore. So if you win the Darksaber in battle, in a one-on-one duel, you are now the official rightful ruler of Mandalore. And that is kind of why it's such an important thing for Moff Gideon and things like that, because he actually won this at one point, and we'll get into that. But the Darksaber was inside the temple. The Jedi, live in the temple. They protect that temple, and the Mandalorians came to get it one day after his death. Okay, so we'll get into that real quick in a little bit. But the original planet of Mandalore, okay, guys, the original planet of Mandalore, a lot of people don't know this. It was actually a vast wealth of jungle, forest area. We have heard it was a warrior-like race of people that lived there. They were very fierce. They loved war. They had, not necessarily egos, but were very much about showing how they were a dominant force. They were very much about superiority, kind of like the Romans back in the day, or the Trojans, things like that. It's just we're showing how we're superior in war and fighting and our physical prowess, right? So essentially, their planet was, like I said, originally dense jungle forest. It had lakes and things thriving throughout it, and it had a plethora of creatures. Okay, a couple of them we're going to mention is actually Shriekhawks, which is basically the warlike birds that they had on that planet. And then you had the Mythosaur. Mythosaur is a beast that we've heard of quite a bit in The Mandalorian.
Your ancestors rode the great Mythosaur.
And the Mythosaur was an amazing creature found only on Mandalore. Sadly, it did die out before any of the wars and things happened. It just naturally became extinct, which was really sad for us to hear, because we would love to see that on screen one day, but sadly, we will not. We're thinking about doing a beasts video of Star Wars and taking some of the top beasts from around the galaxy and ranking them. So if you guys would like to see that, let us know in the comments. We would love to do it. And then the Great War with the Jedi. So this is something that happened. Essentially, the Jedi and Mandalorians never got along. And the reason for this was because the Mandalorians never really understood the Jedi. Okay, even though Tar Vizsla was a Jedi and was a part of the Jedi Order, the other Mandalorians did not really understand them. And you can hear it when people say in The Mandalorian, that race of sorcerers. They don't really know what the Force is. They don't really know what the Jedi are. They believe they're a bunch of sorcerers. They believe they delve in magic and things. And so they don't really trust them. And because of them being a warrior-like race and very prideful, it obviously led to their egos, wanted to make sure that they would challenge the Jedi for might, because the Jedi are peacekeepers. They want to keep the peace in the galaxy, and the Mandalorians do not. They were wanting to engage in war and take over systems and show their might. So this obviously led to clashing. Now, what really broke the back and what really sparked everything was after Tar Vizsla's death, the Jedi Temple was raided by a group of Mandalorians to take the Darksaber back from them. When this happened, this is exactly the time that everything blew up and it really became a war. Not just conflicts back and forth. The great war between the Jedi and between the Mandalorians, where many of the Mandalorians were defeated. The Jedi did end up winning, and over the course of the war, because of everything that happened and the different types of military uses of weaponry, the planet was left ultimately destroyed. Okay? It was really uninhabitable. All the forests, all the jungles and the lakes and all that was just destroyed. And the only way really to live on the planet anymore was inside domed cities. Okay, and obviously that's not good. It's something Mandalorians really were so upset about. They've lost that ability to really live within their planet, and they have to live in these domed spheres now. Kind of like the Hunger Games, you think about that, this big dome that you're living in. So it's kind of sad that happened. But after the war, like I said, it was a desert-like planet, and they did live in those domed cities, and there was a time of peace. After the war, many Mandalorians were very upset with war. They were done with it. They were tired of it. They lost family members. They lost their planet. They lost their animals. And essentially, they wanted a time of peace. During this time, Mandalore became mostly a pacifist system. Okay? And a pacifist system...
Dad, a pacifist system is something you put in a baby's mouth to make it be quiet.
No, Aurora, that is a pacifier. So the pacifist means that you don't really want to engage in war. You don't want conflict, okay? Kind of like Rex from Toy Story, where he says, I don't like confrontation. That's kind of how this is. So many bands of groups of Mandalorians came together, though, and wanted to stay within the old ways. They wanted to be a strong, fierce warrior type. And those clans separated off from themselves to kind of take on that prowess, right? They didn't want a pacifist, peaceful society that bowed down to anyone that came to their planet. They wanted to engage in war and stick to the old code of the Mandalorian. And we see that quite a bit throughout the Mandalorian series of you have old code, now you have new code of Mandalorian. So a very interesting way of how this developed over time. Duchess Satine is actually a very famous Mandalorian. She actually took over and was the ruler of Mandalore during this time of peace. She was a pacifist. She fully believed in the pacifist way and wanted to make sure that there was time of peace for her people. to be able to live within their cities in a time of peace and just have a great wealth of life. Okay, now she was really great ruler. She did a great job with many great things while she was there. She actually had a relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi at one point, which was fantastic to see. And Mandalore for a time was under a great level of peace until the Clone Wars. And that's when you saw corruption come to the system. You saw the Sith Lord Darth Maul actually gained leadership over the planet for a short period of time by winning the Darksaber in a duel. So this is very interesting that you won't see this unless you watch the Clone Wars series, the animated series on Disney Plus. And this is really where that pacifist regime went away, because you had a Death Watch clan, you had a clan that wanted to continue being that warrior race and still had that vengeful thinking against the galaxy who destroyed their planet, and they wanted to fight back. They wanted to get back at them. And that is when this clan that really was still mining Beskar from the moon, Concordia, and really was bringing in more weapons to get themselves armored up. And that's when they appeared. And Darth Maul was the one who really helped to pole vault them to leadership and actually ruling on the planet. So now Mandalore is back to a warrior-like race of people. And Duchess Satine sadly was killed during this time by Darth Maul. This also led to more of that rivalry between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi. A tale as old as time, like Beauty and the Beast. That is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul's story. So, very upsetting time for Obi-Wan during this, and obviously they lost their ruler on Mandalore. Now, after the Empire took rule, okay, so now we're fast forwarding to after the Return of the Jedi. The Empire took over rule of the galaxy. Mandalore was ordered to be purged. Essentially, this strong warrior-like race of people was something that the Empire could not tolerate. They were not willing to allow a system to govern itself and to be separate from the Empire, which is essentially what Mandalore has always wanted. This is why they clashed with the Jedi, and this is why they clashed with the Empire. They did not want anyone to rule over them or dictate their actions or what they did. They wanted to rule their own system and take care of it on their own. And they were also very interested in war and taking over other systems again after this time of peace that they had. So the Empire could not stand for that. Palpatine and the others for the Empire ordered it to be purged by the Empire. And so they were seen to be as a threat, and they were eliminated. What happens when you're eliminated? They bombed it, guys. They brought in TIE fighters and bombed this place like crazy. It was actually called the Night of 1,000 Tears. That is the name of the night that the bombing occurred. And this saw Satine's sister, the late Duchess Satine, her sister Bo-Katan, who we saw in The Mandalorian, she actually lost the Darksaber in battle to Moff Gideon. Yes, that same Moff Gideon that we saw from The Mandalorian. And this is how he's tied into that timeline and tied into the lore of The Mandalorians. So it's great that we have this background there. But essentially, the Mandalorians who survived the slaughter that night fled to other systems and groups, such as Din Djarin's covert that we saw. So we saw Din Djarin's covert, we saw that group and how they were practicing the old ways, but then we also see Bo-Katan's group and how they're practicing the new ways. And it's a mix. It's a mix of, what people believe. And the reason why they sought this old way of life and did not want to live in the new way of the Mandalorians that Bo-Katan was putting into regime was because Bo-Katan actually never won the Darksaber in a duel. Bo-Katan was actually given the Darksaber, and this is something that these other Mandalorians, especially the Mandalorians from Din Djarin's covert, believe she never should have been the ruler. She is the reason that we were purged. She is the reason that we fell as a society and our planet was completely destroyed and all of our people died except for the few that are now scattered across the galaxy. They believe that Bo-Katan is the reason for that because she was not rightful to rule because she never earned the Darksaber herself. So that is why this covert is against those ways. It's not really told to Din Djarin. It's not really told to the others. But this is the history, and this is the way. And this is why this is the way. So, they believe this is what led to their downfall of Mandalore and why they're against her way of life. This also shows the culture bylaws difference between the various clans of Mandalore in the show The Mandalorian. So essentially that is it. We're going to kind of wrap it up here, guys. But Mandalore, as we see now in the Disney streaming movies and on that timeline, it is no more. Mandalore has been destroyed. It is not an inhabitable planet anymore. Even those dome cities are gone because they were bombed and destroyed. And that is why this once proud warrior race of people, a mighty force in the galaxy, now like a bunch of rats just scattering across the galaxy throughout the different sewers and culverts, trying to stay alive and keep their religion and keep their ways and keep their pride in a way. This is why it's such a huge chip on their shoulders. And I hope this was enlightening for you guys. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the video. I don't think many people know about Mandalore's history. I don't think many people know about the wars. I don't think many people know why the Jedi and the Mandalorians just didn't like each other to begin with. So this is essentially all of that history. And we hope you guys learned a little bit from this. We hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button so you're aware when we post new content out there. And leave a comment. Let us know if there's something interesting you heard. Let us know if you would like to see the top beasts in Star Wars video that we talked about, or if there's something else you'd like to see. Let us know in the comments. Commenting on the video does help us out tremendously, and we are official free travel agents. So if you want to go see Star Wars Galaxy's Edge down in Orlando or over in California at the Disney parks, reach out to us. We're absolutely a free service. So we will not charge you anything more than your regular trip would be if you paid for it yourself. It will be the exact same price booking through us. So we would really appreciate it. Help support the channel, help support Aurora, and that's all we can hope for here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you on the next video.